in Destin, and I just want to let everybody know out there watching, it's a great time to come down here and visit. We're not in a blizzard. There's no winter wonderland. It was a cute thing that had happened. People always remember, but that's not what you can expect when you come down. And so I know it's a lot colder in other parts of the country, and you're not going to find many better places to come than to come to Northwest Florida and spend some time. So do that. Now, we knew we were going to get something. We prepared for it, and we had the guys icing the salting the roads, plowing. That's not what we normally do in Florida, and we knew we were going to get some. But we had a previous record of 4 inches, and we got 10 inches in different parts, of the pay. I mean, that's incredible that happened. I think there had been more snow in Milton, Florida, than in Anchorage, Alaska at that point in January, if you can believe that. So where's the global warming when you need it, right? So we're excited to be here. Got a lot of traffic out there. We need to deal with illegal immigration once and for all. I'm so sick of passing the buck. I'm so sick of politicians campaigning, telling you they're going to be tough on it, and then they get into office and they squish out. And they don't do what needs to be done to make sure that the people of this state are protected. We have had elections in this state where people like me running strong on against illegal immigration won big. Donald Trump won big, strong border, strong on illegal immigration. And so now it's time to act on this. President's done his part with changing all the Biden policies. As part of the policies he's implemented, they are inviting state and locals to be a part of these efforts. And there's different federal programs that you can subscribe to. We can actually have state and local deputized by ICE to be able to exercise immigration and deportation functions. I just signed a memorandum of understanding with DHS and ICE with our highway patrol. So Director Dave Kerner, his guys out there, if you have an illegal driving drunk and they get pulled over, well, the highway patrol can then take them to immigration too. Why do you want to put an illegal back on the road to be able to do all this stuff? So the possibilities are really, really strong, but we got to get the policy right and we got to get the job done. I called a special session of the Florida legislature to be able to address this and other issues. And the legislative leaders didn't want to do it. They said it was premature. They said that it could wait. And they even said that doing a special session on illegal immigration was a stunt. A stunt? We've been waiting 4 years to be able to address this issue. We complained about Biden constantly for year after year after year. So I knew we had to act. I wanted to give a week after the president was inaugurated so we could digest. We knew what was coming, but to digest everything and then go forward. And they didn't want to do it. They fought back. They, had their excuses. But the voters demanded that they acted. And the voters were very clear. You need to get in there and do your job. And so they got that message, but they thought that they could do some window dressing and then just kind of leave, and that you guys would all just accept that, even though the policy was terrible and they weren't getting the job done. Our voters are smarter than that. They thought if they put Trump's name on a weak bill, that people would just say, oh, it must be good just because Trump's popular. People have seen through that. And so what they did was they created a piece of legislation that not only didn't answer the call and help deliver on the mandate that we have for the American people, they did things that are going to make it worse to combat illegal immigration than we're even doing now. If that bill passed, we would have been more effective under even Biden in some respects than now when we have a willing partner in Donald Trump, because they're trying to kneecap state enforcement efforts. So we've got some work to do here. Now, it's interesting because they have tried to say that this is somehow some great piece of legislation. I can tell you, the voters, I've never seen voters react more negatively to a piece of legislation. So they're thinking, like, the governor's calling for us to step up. Florida, we lead in Florida. We've done that for 6 years, leading the nation on all this stuff. it's great to see the great start President Trump's gotten off to, doing things like going after DEI, the gender mutilation of minors, all that stuff. We did that stuff years ago in Florida. I mean, we were the first out of the gate on all of that stuff to lead, and we're going to be the first out of the gate to be strong partners in finally ending illegal immigration once and for all in this country. So we are, it's important. So they've done this, and it actually undercuts what we're already doing. So, for example, when we had some of the unrest in Haiti, they'll send boats with these Haitians, these illegals, and they'll come to mostly South Florida, obviously. And we didn't want to see a big influx, but Biden didn't have enough Coast Guard vessels, so we declared a state of emergency. I surged vessels. We've interdicted thousands and thousands of illegals. And you look at these boats, some of them have narcotics, they have guns and all this stuff. We've saved a lot of lives by preventing them from coming to the state of Florida. We've done other interdiction efforts. FDLE was just working down in Coral Gables. They busted Chinese illegal aliens. FHP just did a bust in Tallahassee. They're constantly doing that and getting people off the street. Obviously, it's much more effective with Trump than with Biden, because Biden would release them once they got to immigration in many cases. So we've been doing all that. So the bill the legislature sent me, it actually terminates the state of emergency that's unlocked our ability to do all the things we're currently doing. They want to shut it, just as Donald Trump declared a national emergency at the border, they want to shut down Florida's declaration to say this is an important issue and basically end all the things these guys have been doing, and they're working very constructively. Now, if you were serious about ending illegal immigration, why the hell would you stop the things we're doing that's been effective? But that's what they wanted to do, terminate. That's in the bill. The other thing they did is they eliminated any immigration enforcement from the governor and our state agencies, and really local in many respects, and they lodged it in the Commissioner of Agriculture. First of all, has that ever been done anywhere in the United States? How often is agriculture viewed as leading the fight against illegal immigration? I don't think I've seen that memo yet. And so it's really like the fox guard and the hen house. So it's a bad decision. They don't have the resources. You'd have to create a whole new bureaucracy to be all these problems. But they actually, in the bill, they prohibit our state agencies and your local agencies from even talking to ICE without the approval of the Commissioner of Agriculture. So if you want to have Panhandle, your police departments, your sheriff's departments, if they're working to bust like some illegal alien gang, they wouldn't be able to turn them over to ICE unless the Commissioner of Agriculture gave them approval. Who the hell do they think they are to say they need a Mother May I from the Commissioner of freaking Agriculture? And so people will say, well, why would they do that? It doesn't make sense. Because think about it. What state has done a better job at crisis management, disaster response, emergency response than the state of Florida? Is there a state that's done better? Not even close. So we have agencies that are in all these fights. We have a great record of success in responding to different things. And why would you want to kneecap that? And even if you were serious about it, to create a new set of bureaucracy in the Commissioner of Agriculture obviously doesn't make sense. And the reason they did it, it's not because they're dumb. They knew by doing that they would stymie enforcement against illegal immigration. They don't want to remove illegal aliens from this state, okay? Some of them want cheap labor for some of these business interests. And here's my problem. So first of all, we did E-Verify a couple years ago. And E-Verify, so it's private business. You just run them through the computer. You're here lawfully, you can be hired. If you're not, you can't be hired. That's the law of the land. It's not like we're imposing a new set of laws. So that's the law. And so we've done it, but and so the legislature in this debate, because they want to take E-Verify away from the governor and put it in the Commissioner of Agriculture. Gee, wonder why. But what they tried to say is, oh, the governors, you guys weren't tough enough. You were dropping the ball, this stuff. Well, it turns out the legislature has refused to fund E-Verify the last 2 years. Imagine why they wouldn't want to fund E-Verify. They probably have some supporters that don't want them to do it. But because they said that, we've now sent out letters to a lot of these businesses that are sometimes suspected of having illegal labor. We've sent it out, and we said, hey, some members of the Florida legislature are suggesting that you may be using illegal labor and you're not using E-Verify, and they're saying that the ball's been dropped. So we're now going to get confirmation on all these businesses, and we are going to follow up with them to see if they're following the law or not. But these guys deliberately did not want to fund that because they want the policy to be you have illegal workers because it's cheaper for some of their supporters. And here's my problem with that. One, we got to be a rule of law, right? If you want to have foreigners come in, then change the law. Now, I wouldn't support that, but at least we're all on the up and up. Why is it that you have to follow the law, but some of these other guys don't have to follow the law? That doesn't work for me. Doesn't make sense. So I have a problem with just from a rule of law perspective. I also have a problem, though, when you bring in the illegal foreign labor. You're obviously undercutting wages. They say, oh, Americans don't want to do. Americans will do more construction if it pays better. They just want an artificially lower wage. But here's the thing. It's a massive corporate subsidy to them at your expense because guess what? They're paying low wages. You're paying for schooling for the kids. You're paying for medical when they go to the emergency room. And tragically, a lot of people pay when they get hit in like a traffic accident and the illegal doesn't have insurance. So it imposes massive costs on our communities. And a lot of them don't want to acknowledge that, don't want to say they're for that, but they've made policy choices in this bill that would lead us to essentially being a sanctuary state. Because if these guys can't even communicate with ICE without going Mother May I to agriculture, you are handcuffing the people that are out there trying to keep you safe from the scourge of illegal immigration. They also didn't do anything to stop catch and release. My proposals say you get an illegal, the drunk driving is something that I talk about a lot because we have a lot of people who've lost loved ones being hit by an illegal alien drunk driver in almost every instance that I know of. It's not the first traffic infraction that these guys have had. So if they're there, get arrested for DUI. Under the bill that the leaders passed, they go before a judge and just get released, right? There's no presumption of detention. For us, we don't think that they should be entitled to bail. We think that they should, the default should be that they're detained and then turned over to immigration. Don't just put them back on the street. We also want to make sure that we're very tough on illegal alien voting, which is wrong, and it's not allowed in the state of Florida. And we have prosecuted. No one really dealt with this until I became governor. We worked with the legislature to establish an Office of Election Crimes in the Attorney General's office. And so after the 2020 election, there were illegals brought up on charges who voted illegally in some of these elections on the local level were decided by 50 votes. So it does matter. And some of the illegal aliens said, well, I was told I could vote by someone in like Broward County or whatever. And I don't actually dispute that. I think that's probably true. But the part of the reason why they are able to register to vote is because there's no declaration that you're a U.S. citizen when you register to vote. So we want to put on our forms a declaration where you have to declare under penalty of perjury you're a U.S. citizen. And then if you declare that and you register, then the crime is committed right there, even before you vote. And the reason why that's important is because if you prosecute them after they voted, the vote is going to count. If you get them after they register but before they vote, then we've prevented the election from being infected. Now, the bill that they passed doesn't do what needs to be done on voter registration at all. And I think we got to be very, very tough on that. So you have, and then the linchpin of all this is we want a duty for all state and local law enforcement agencies to cooperate and participate with the Trump administration's efforts. That's what they've called for in the executive orders, and we need to step up there and do it. What the legislature did, they do not impose any duties on any agency to be involved in any meaningful way. They did say you got to, at the jails, you've got to allow ICE to pick people up. That's already the case in Florida and the vast majority of jurisdictions. And obviously I support if someone's in jail that let ICE come and get them. But that is woefully inadequate for what we really need and what I think the administration has called for. So we need to have that participation, because if you look at the numbers, they've done a lot, but you're talking about like 1,000 arrests a day. I think those will go up, but I mean, if you extrapolate that, that's like 1.5 million over a 4-year period. That isn't going to be enough. Like Biden let in 10 million on his own, right? So they're going to do more in the Fed. There's no question. They'll beef it up. But unless you have state and locals assisting and being able to bring illegal aliens for deportation, being able to end, catch, and release, do all these things, none of this stuff's ultimately, the problem's not ultimately going to be solved. So states need to step up, localities need to step up. Now, we're not a sanctuary state. We ban sanctuary cities. So you can't frustrate immigration enforcement in Florida, but most jurisdictions are just like, you know what, let the feds, they don't want to be involved in it at all. And that attitude's not going to cut it, because we're not going to solve the problem if that's the case. So we want the cooperation to be the default standard. We will provide funding, and we understand that we're not going to detract from doing the normal things that these agencies are doing, but we want to supplement that with additional resources and personnel to be able to assist with this very, very important mission. And the legislature's bill not only doesn't do it, but because the Ag Commissioner has the veto, some of these local agencies, even if you want your local agencies to be doing it, they could say, look, Ag Commissioner hasn't approved me. You know, we can't be involved in immigration at all. I mean, just think about it. You have a criminal alien running loose on the street. You can't even call ICE without going to the Agriculture Department. I mean, it's absurd that that would be the case. So all of this is why the people of Florida have really rejected what the legislature did. They tried to pull a fast one on you. In fact, we were down in Palm Beach yesterday. The representative from down in, I think he's in Delray, Mike Caruso, who's a great guy, he voted against it, because they get a lot of pressure from the leadership. If you buck the leadership, they take away your committee assignments, they won't hear your bills, they take away your projects, and a lot of these guys get spooked by that. Although, let me just tell you, you need to be willing to take consequences to stand to do what's right. You shouldn't let them bully you on a fundamental issue like this. I can tell you, you look at the stuff we've done in Florida, there's not been anything that we've led on that's been cost-free. We've taken daggers from the COVID reopenings, the schools, fighting the vax mandates, eliminating DEI, eliminating all this stuff we've done has come at a cost. Leadership is not cost-free. So if you've made promises to your constituents that you're going to be strong on illegal immigration, and you have an opportunity to do it, you need to take that opportunity. You can't say, well, I wanted to do it, but I was worried I'd get kicked off a committee. That is not exercising the type of courageous leadership that's going to save this country. But nevertheless, that's what they do. So they tell people you got to vote for this, otherwise we're going to ruin all this stuff. Although, I've also announced, because we've raised a lot of money to beat Amendments 3 and 4 last time. We are now going to do it. I'm going to do it for my successor as governor. We need somebody that's very conservative and is going to keep this going. Because I can tell you, there's no guarantee this keeps going. There's no guarantee at all. We could be a purple state in 5 or 10 years very easily if we don't make the right decision. So we're going to do that. But we're also going to get involved in some of these legislative primaries. Because I just think that if you've campaigned one way and you get up and you do something different, we need to expose that for the voters. And I think it's just, and I think what happens in these legislative races, it's like, like the kind of the leadership will pick who they want in the primary. They'll put special interest money behind them. They all run mailers and commercials saying they're the most conservative thing since sliced bread. Some of these guys were like, had my picture and all their stuff. It's like, so okay, fine. Well, you get in on that, put your money where your mouth is. And I think what we don't, and I totally respect somebody that runs on a different agenda than I've pursued. If we have a Republican that runs on a supposed need to bring in a lot of cheap illegal labor for their donors, if that's what they want to run on and they win and they get in and do that, honestly, what am I going to say? But what I don't want is for people running saying they're putting Floridians first, they're going to stop illegal immigration, they're going to stand with the policies that are strong, and then get in and then do the opposite. That is the problem that we're going to have. So we are going to make sure that we're doing it. But there is just that. So you have a lot of pressure that gets put on these guys to just fall in line. So this bill that was generated, I think it's 75, 80 pages. They got it, and they had 25 minutes to read it. This is Nancy Pelosi. You have to pass the bill to find out what is in the bill. And it's unacceptable. And think about it. Is there anything you would do in your life where you had 75 pages and 25 minutes to make an important decision? Would anybody think that's acceptable in any aspect of our lives? Of course not. So why not allow this to get public view? Why not have people be able to render their opinions? And I think it was because they knew the opinions were going to be very negative. So they just wanted to ram it through. And here's the thing. A lot of these members, because I've supported a lot of these guys, I've raised resources for them, and there's a lot of good guys, good men and women in there who really want to do the right thing. And so they were put in a really difficult spot because they're being told the bill's doing certain things, but if you actually look under the hood, it's this jalopy. So those members really weren't treated well. And look, I think you guys should talk to your members, House, Senate, in the legislature, tell them what you think on this. But I do think you have people who want to do the right thing, who were told that this was doing what people thought that we all wanted, and it just wasn't. And it doesn't excuse it entirely, but I do think there were circumstances where if some of those members were given the option of voting for the strong policies outlined, I think a lot of them would vote for it, 100%. I think they would vote for it. So all that said, they have still, some of them are still clinging to this idea that this is good legislation. But let me ask you this. If this is such good legislation, why have they not sent me the bill yet to act on? Why are they holding the bill for me to act on? And I think the reason is because if we get the bill and we do an event where we have a lot of people, and I veto the bill in front of this crowd, is the crowd going to cheer or is the crowd going to boo? Crowd's going to cheer. And we know that. So they haven't sent the bill. This whole thing in many respects was a bunch of games, and they haven't sent the bill. And I think that, now, having said all of that, sometimes these things, unfold and things happen. Our voters have been very clear about what they expect. Our members have had a couple days. They'll have the weekend to listen to those members, to listen to their constituents, and then come back and get it right. And I think we can get it right. And we need to get it right. And I'm not going to rest until we get it right. So we have an opportunity to do it. So not only are we excited about the opportunity to make a difference on this and other issues, we recognize, you just heard the administration talk about if you have these really nasty criminal aliens that their home countries won't take back, they're going to create a staging ground at Guantanamo Bay Naval Base. And, I think I was actually, as a, man, I was probably a Navy lieutenant back in the day. I was down in Gitmo at the detention facility back in the day. I did some little temporary duty assignments down there. So I got to know the area. And I think it'd be a great place, quite frankly, to have criminal aliens. Now, these countries need to take back their illegals. And when Colombia gave the president some dissonance, he said, well, you're going to face a lot of consequences. So I think that you're probably going to have most countries not want to deal with those consequences. So I think when the president laid those out, I think it was really well thought out. I think it was smart. Clearly, they recognized that some of these countries wouldn't do it. But there will probably be some who don't. And so we're going to be able to assist, maybe transferring over to feds fly them in. But you know what? Guantanamo Bay is a hell of a lot closer to Florida than Martha's Vineyard was, so we're in the game too, right? So let's do the right thing for the people of Florida. I'm excited about what we can do, for the country, over these next 4 years of this current administration. Obviously, the rest of my 2 years here as governor, and it's exciting, but we've got to seize the moment. We've got to do all we can. And the way I view people are like, because some of the legislatures were mad. Oh, why did he call a special session? Why didn't he wait? And what I think about it is, if I'm walking into like a gas station and somebody pulls me over and they say, hey, are you going to get in the game to help on removing these illegal aliens? If I answered them, well, yeah, maybe in a couple months we'll do something about it, is that an acceptable answer for anybody? No. You would tell the person, absolutely, here's what we're doing, we're going to get the job done. So we did have a sense of urgency, and we did the right thing. So I'm looking, we got great resources here. We're going to have a lot of opportunities to do different things. This will really make a difference. The state will be safer as a result of this. And there's a lot of focus on criminal aliens, illegals who get convicted of crimes. Obviously, you remove them. The House and Senate bill basically says the only way you get removed is if you've committed and been convicted of a crime. They don't want normal illegal aliens to be removed. Obviously, they should not be shielded. We're not a sanctuary state. That's basically what they wanted to do. But I do think, and so but you do have an effect on criminal activity. But the reason why I don't think the threshold should be until you're actually convicted of a crime is because how many crimes would we prevent if we deported when we were supposed to do that, which is very, very important. Oh, final point I got to just say, and I want to let these guys talk. Sometimes it's like, okay, getting in the weeds on legislation. What is this thing doing or trying to do? Well, if you read the bill, it uses the word, so this is supposed to be a bill to help Florida, help the federal government remove illegal aliens from the state. That's what it's supposed to be. And yet, this bill mentions the word agriculture over 30 times, and it mentions the word deport 0 times. The fix is in. Come on. So let's get real here. Let's do what the people told us that they would do. And I'm confident that we have a lot of folks in the legislature that want to get there. I think we're going to have an opportunity to get a really unifying vote on a very good set of proposals. So let's get that done. But you guys have a role. You reach out and talk to your folks. You let them know, what you think. Do not take any talking points. Make them explain why they made the choices that they did. Why did they not do some of the things that they did? And I think sometimes in legislative and policy making, sometimes maybe we could have the same objective, just a different way to get there. But if you actually read their bill, their objective is not our objective. Our objective is to help with the deportation of illegal aliens. Theirs is to shield a lot of illegal aliens who are working here under the table. And that's just, you see the difference in philosophy and values with that. So it's unfortunate. So, all right, well, we've got both Mark Glass, FDLE, and Dave Kerner from the Highway Patrol, head of the Highway Patrol and Department of Highway Safety. So they're going to talk a couple things, and then I'll wrap it up. So go ahead.
Thank you, Governor. Dave Kerner, honored to be here with you, Governor. Honored to be here with you as constituents in the state of Florida, and truly honored to be here joined by our Florida State Troopers. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here, guys. These state troopers have been on the border for almost 3 years, over 40,000 individual nights and days away from their family and friends, protecting the state of Florida, protecting you, protecting our way of life. As an agency, we are excited to start to focus our operational efforts into the interior of Florida. We want to be of value to you. We want to be of value to the federal government in this deportation process. But, you know, I can't help but think that I got to be as candid with you and with my boss here as possible, with the commissioner of FDLE here. This isn't just about public policy. This moment is a moment in Florida's history that we will look back on, and we will say that we were under attack because the question isn't about the specific policy in the bill. It's really an attack on the way that our government is functioning and how it is run. I mean, we have all heard, let's be honest, in this last election, since Governor DeSantis has been the governor of this state as well, we have adopted conservative values as American values. And our American values are under attack by way of the Florida legislature and this bill. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk briefly about the unitary executive. A unitary executive is the basis of the president's power, our governor's power, to keep us safe, to protect his constituents, and to enforce the law. Both President Trump and Governor DeSantis have been strong supporters of that unitary executive. The U.S. Supreme Court has ratified that policy. The concept has been discussed and supported by the Federalist Society. The U.S. Constitution requires it. The Florida State Constitution requires a unitary executive. And let me cite briefly the Florida Constitution, Section 4, Article 4, Section 1A. The supreme executive power shall be vested in the governor, who shall be commander-in-chief of all military forces of the state, and as governor shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The governor shall have the power to call out the militia, to preserve the public peace, execute the laws of the state, and to suppress insurrection or repel invasion. Who does that better than Governor DeSantis? Now let's, as Governor DeSantis says, let's look under the hood. They passed the bill, right? Let's see what it says. Because I get a lot of questions, even from lawmakers, about, well, Director Kerner, I don't really understand what you mean by we're not empowering law enforcement, that we're making their jobs harder. We don't want to do that. Well, and I'm standing here with one of our top cops in the state, Commissioner Mark Glass. Our agencies work so closely together. His agents are outstanding. Lines directly from the bill. Any communication or coordination between a state entity and a federal immigration agency concerning such laws or matters must occur through the Office of Agriculture Commissioner. Commissioner Glass and I, my troopers and his agents, they talk every day about operations, about intelligence, about drug deals, what have you. Now, but if it touches immigration, we can't do that anymore. We have to go seek permission. Mother, may I? Another line from the bill. If a local government law enforcement agency, we have our deputy sheriffs here, requests assistance regarding federal immigration from a state law enforcement agency, like ourselves, the local government law enforcement agency must coordinate that request through the Office of Agriculture Commissioner. You know, it's funny because there's a program called 287G. The governor has spoken about MOUs, or Memorandums of Understanding. We were honored to sign one I guess it was just 2 days ago, Governor, with HSI and ERO, Enforcement Removal Operations. This is sort of a historic document in the sense that it's giving state troopers and state law enforcement federal powers to enforce immigration laws. We haven't been able to do that for 4 years. Thank goodness we have Governor DeSantis, because if another governor had signed this bill, this would be ineffective. This would disappear with that signature. The moment that this bill becomes law, this goes away. You must seek permission through the Commissioner of Agriculture to do that. And, you know, the last question I would ask that the legislature answer is, you know, if our agent or his agents and the state troopers are working and they're out on the road, and I'll give you an example. Last night, state trooper pulls over a car in Liberty County. There's 5 illegal aliens in it. There's drugs, no license, what have you, a normal traffic stop. Well, we have to call ICE to come get them, right? We wouldn't be allowed to do that if this was law. we couldn't call ICE. We would have to get permission from the Commissioner of Agriculture. However, if there were 10 pounds or kilos of cocaine, if there were some firearm violation, what have you, we would be empowered to act on that alone and contact the federal government. But if it's immigration related, our law enforcement needs to seek permission. And so I would ask you to think about if the federal Congress passed a bill to take power away from the executive, away from President Trump, what would that response be? Well, that's exactly what is happening in this bill. They are trying to take power away from the executive branch and put it in the Department of Agriculture. I really and truly believe in my heart that that is an attack on our system of government and our value system as a state and as Americans. Governor, regardless of how this ends up, and I think I have an idea where we're headed, because this governor never loses. He fights and fights and fights for your public safety every day. And that's been one of the joys of my life, is to work side by side or behind him in any event. But regardless of what happens, if the legislature sits on their hands and doesn't do anything, my promise to you, my promise to these constituents, my promise to my partners in law enforcement, these guys and gals behind me are going to keep kicking butt. They're going to do what needs to be done. We're going to put bad people in jail, and we're going to get them out of this country.
Thank you. And my name's Mark Glass. I'm the FDLE Commissioner for the state of Florida. I just want to say the governor, since he appointed me close to almost 3 years ago to this position, he was already on board and already working immigration issues. I came right in the middle of watching and looking for my agents or having to pay attention, because we were getting inundated with buses and airplanes full of children that were illegal alien children that were coming in. And I spoke about this yesterday. This wasn't DHS and HSI. This was Health and Human Services, who are bringing them in droves and pushing them into our neighborhoods, and which is their children. We understand that. But they would not even tell us when they were coming, who was on the plane. They would not tell us when the buses were going, so our own state entities and local county entities could not intercept or talk to them to make sure these children were getting the services they needed, because the state of Florida has wonderful services for them, to make sure no one is going to harm them. They were going to legitimate facilities, and all we had to lean on was that it was the federal government said this is where they're going. Now that's from Biden, okay? That was that HHS program that they brought in here. No wonder they lost 300,000 children. And as soon as President Trump came in, they found 70 to 80 immediately. And that's why I said, go to HHS, you're going to probably find more where they came from. But if we were allowed to do what we were doing back then, and this governor here was really pushing hard, how can we do this? How can we make sure these children are taken care of, legally taken care of, utilizing our services, but yet annotating where they're at so they do not get trafficked again. They're not getting picked up by somebody who is perceived to be their family member. How do we do that and utilize our own state services for that? Well, I'm going to tell you, we didn't get told that. We just told we're supposed to rely on it and basically step off. So that's what I came into when I came into the commissioner position at FDLE. And this is what this governor was doing. He was trying to support and protect the state of Florida. So I'm just going to also kind of throw something out there to you. Yesterday at our immigration roundtable in Palm Beach, I brought up to the governor that and to the people that were there that on the declarations of immigration of people coming in illegally, Florida is number 2 on the destination list. I got that from DHS. Number 2, we're behind New York. And as in any poll, we want Florida to be first, not in that category. That is, I will tell you, with the policies that are being put together, the hard work that we've been doing for the past governor's term, 6 years, and what we're continuing to do, I will tell you that we're going to drop, and with President Trump coming in office, and the cuffs are off there, we are going to drop out of number 2 because of what we're doing to deter and deport out of this state. We're going to drop from number 2 out of the top 10, which is a measurable goal. I promise you that will happen if we're allowed to do that. So the state of Florida has a statute called 943. Take a look at it. In the Florida state statute, I'm considered the chief domestic security officer and also immigration to do immigration issues. So if chief domestic security officer doesn't mean that I run everything. It means that I'm a coordinator, that I coordinate with my state, local, and federal partners to make sure that we are doing everything we possibly can under the direction of the leadership. So we're doing under 943, that's already in statute, and that's what we're doing. So we're coordinating. Not one agency, no matter how you try it, can do it by themselves. So it takes all of us. It takes every agency and every department, even the non-law enforcement agencies, to do this. It takes you as citizens to spot and help us to find different things. Just like we did in Miami. That was a citizen tip that we got to Coral Gables PD with Chief Hudak, and he contacted us and ICE. We showed up. We were able to see 26 illegal, smuggled in, illegal Chinese nationals in vans. Who knows where they were going, who knows what they were doing, and who knows how they were being taken care of. I mean, just humanely, let's just talk about that part of it. Going to where God knows where. We were able to intercept. We turned them over to ICE. ICE is interviewing. We're being the second chair on interviews, trying to figure out where they're going. Everybody knows we got it. China's infiltrating us in all different ways, right? Well, you do not have to go through the legal visa system as much anymore. Just go across the southwest border. That's how it's been for before President Trump got in. So we got to understand that under 943 and domestic security and the way our state is set up, I help coordinate natural and man-made disasters. The natural side goes to our DEM director, and he and I are partners in this. When it comes to man-made disasters, then I take over in that part, and we work hand in hand. Not one person has it. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a man-made disaster. It was made by a man that was able to put that many people into our system. Let me give you another stat from DHS. Finally getting stats. I've been trying for 3 years I've been here to get stats from them. And I was balked, and by the way, DHS has, previous administration, has a state and local law enforcement advisor. And I'm the Homeland Security advisor to talk back and forth to DHS. On the previous administration, how many times I talked to the state and local advisor or to talk to the person who was responsible for that assistant secretary? Goose egg. Now, I'm just an old boy from Walton County, just right over here, and I know what zero means. That means you didn't get contacted, right? So at that point, I've been putting letters in, trying to get it on, put them on record to tell me where everybody's at. Heck, they got a CBP One app. I was like, you pay for an app and you can't even tell me where these folks are at? How do we know what type of services they need? How do we know what's going on? Refused. But since President Trump's in and the new leaderships are coming in, the door's open. We are talking direct back and forth. I've talked to the new state and local law enforcement advisor, which is former Sheriff Keith Pearson out of St. Lucie County. He's already telling me, what do you need? We're trying. We're going to everything we get. So I'm talking to senior officials again back at DHS. But let me give you this stat. There's over 7 million, and I think it's close to 8, but it's over 7 million illegal immigrants that already have and they're in the ATD program. It's called Alternate to Detain program. Now, it doesn't mean they just came over illegally and they're ready to deport. These are alternate to detain. You know, we get the ones that would, no things, cut them loose. 7 million in the system with ICE. Congress has only approved and appropriated ICE to have 40,000 beds. I told you I'm from Walton County. I saw Commissioner Drake in the back, and his daddy was my superintendent. I can do math, and that's pretty math that it's going to take a long time to get these folks out. So I just kind of want to run that with you. So just in 2024, what I was getting reported by DHS, just in 2024, there was 315 releases from detentions that were not going to go into another detention or be deported. They were just going to get their court date, a notice to appear to an immigration court. I want you to go online, if you can, at FDLE, and you'll see this chart. And this chart, when you see it, take a look at it. Out of those 315 that they released, 94% of the criminal aliens were released in our state had one or more violent crimes in their criminal history. 12% of the criminal aliens released are sexual predators and had committed sexual assault. 29% of criminal aliens released are convicted drug offenders, and 3% were released, were federally charged and illegally re-entered again multiple times. Okay, out of that stat, 28 homicide charges, 85 sex offense charges, 31 traffic charges, 350 other federal charges, 155 weapons charges, 226 drug charges, 47 robbery charges, 52 vehicle to Leo charges, 147 domestic violence charges, 139 property crime charges, and it goes on and on. I could keep, this is just the major ones I hit. There's a ton more. So what I'm trying to tell you is this right here is a man-made disaster. So, and I told you all that. Well, we still only got 40,000 beds nationwide. And this is why it's going to be imperative in the few months and years to come here that it's, as citizens, we must support our local sheriffs, the constitutional officer of that county, because it's going to be asked of them with their jail facilities and detention facilities. They made it so hard for the county jails to house these illegal immigrants, right, and doing these charges with the standards and status they must bring their jails up to, which is, and I was told, stricter than the Federal Bureau of Prisons capabilities. But they're telling our county sheriffs that they got to get it up that high? That's ridiculous. And I was told by the DHS that you're going to see a change in that, and the sheriffs are going to be able to start taking on beds and getting those beds open and everything. So that's going to be some things we got to really pay attention to and supporting our local constitutional officers. The other thing is, in the 90s and up in the early 2000s, being a state trooper and working as a police officer in the state of Florida, there was 3 immigration judges in the state of Florida to do all that detention and removals, right? They had to go in front of a judge, get a due process before they're told that they're going to be deported. Guess how many judges we have in the state of Florida, immigration judges doing this now? Right? So do you see the backlog and where it's going to come from? That's what we got to worry about. In this region, we talked about domestic security. You have some of the best sheriffs and chiefs of police in this region. They are out there doing it. FDLE special agents along with them and HSI and ICE, just this past week we arrested 14 in Pensacola region. Guess what? The only approved facilities are now filling up, and they said if we get to do any more, we're going to have to transport them once we arrest them to Alabama. And then, well, after that, the next one's in Mississippi. So we do a traffic stop, get them, we got to transport them out of state. So this is where it's going to be focused, laser focused on how do we detain these folks and give help to DHS as they're changing their posture and moving forward with the Trump administration. Right. Governor, I just want to tell you one more thing. Just when we were at doing our last briefing, they were doing Indian River, the 26, did a bust on 26 right when we were doing our briefing. Right when he and I was doing a briefing, Indian River County was doing a bust in Operation Stonegarden for 26 folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have momentum. Let's don't stop the momentum. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you.
Well, we look forward to getting this done for the people of Florida, and that's what it's all about. It's not about, you know, some of these, guys are, you don't think about insular, about politics in Tallahassee. Nobody cares about that. They care about whether you're doing the work that the people elected you to do, and are you doing what needs to be done to make our state better, and our proposals clearly are geared with that in mind, and will deliver that. I also will be putting out our proposed budget for next year. That's due at the end of the weekend, and I'm not going to necessarily go into a lot of it now, but I'll just give you a couple things. The state of Florida, under my governorship, we've paid, if you look at all the debt that the states had from 1840 to the present, we've paid off almost 40% of that just since I've been governor. So we now have the lowest per capita debt of any of the 50 states. We're very proud of that. We have more than tripled the state's rainy day fund since I became governor. We're actually nearing the point where the rainy day fund's not even allowed to take in any more money because it's so flush. So we're going to continue on that vein. We are going to look at, we are going to include as much tax reduction. When we don't have an income tax, which is good, it's harder to cut. We do like holidays and stuff, so we're going to be looking at, are there any taxes we can eliminate? I do think one thing, and we can't do it in the legislature through the budget. It would have to go through Constitution because property taxes are local. But, we need to crack down on property taxes in this state. We need to limit these property taxes in more ways than we do. So I think that homestead deduction needs to dramatically increase for people. I think it'd make a huge difference. Because, you think about the the home prices have gone up. Part of it is inflation, but part of it in Florida is demand. There's a lot of people that have demand to live here in Northwest Florida. It's a hot spot. And so you have the home prices going up. Interest rates have gone up, so people want to get a mortgage. That's more difficult than it was, prior to Joe Biden becoming president over 4 years ago. Then you also have insurance, which has gone up partially because of the inflation, but also, we had a lot of roofing scams. Now, we dealt with that a couple years ago in 2024. We actually had 9 new companies come in. They're leaving California. They're coming to Florida. And we had 6 million homeowners policies that had no increase, which had not been the case for a while. So we've taken a lot of action there, but that's a huge part of this. And then the taxes are a part of it. So the thing we have the most control over, we obviously can't control the overall inflation rate. We can't control private markets, but we can control how much they can tax you. So we're going to be working over the next year and a half to see what we can present for voters to be able to vote in the next election for some major property tax limitations and reliefs. These local governments, I'm not saying they're all bad, but the bottom line is when homes are being sold, money comes in, they typically spend it, right? And I think that we can let's limit that to make sure that people are protected. So we need to do that, but we can't do that in the budget. So we'll do some other tax stuff. But one of the things we are going to do is pay increases for highway patrol troopers. That's going to be in our budget. And these guys have done a lot. I was the first governor to send folks to the southern border when Biden opened it back in 2021. We had a lot of states follow suit, and people are, why are you sending to Texas? You're Florida. Because I care about this country, and Floridians care about this country. And what comes across that border doesn't stay at the border, and a lot of that stuff ends up in our state. So it's the right thing to do. We're glad they did those missions. They've done a lot of missions in addition to just the normal stuff. So they deserve that. We're going to make sure that we get that done. So we'll be coming out with that this weekend. I look forward to working with the legislature to make sure we're meeting the needs of the state, but we're also maintaining that laser focus on fiscal responsibility. And in Washington, the debt has doubled over the last 10 years. And in Florida, in the last 6 years, we've knocked out over a third of the debt. So you couldn't have a stronger contrast between how we've handled your money and how Congress and D.C. has handled your money. So we want to keep that going, make sure the state's built for the long haul. We continue to get the job done. Okay, you have your marching orders. Who here is going to call or email their House or Senate member? You guys going to do it? Very respectfully. Be nice, because these are good folks. Be nice. Be very respectful, but be very clear about what your expectations are. And if you are able to talk in person or on the phone and you're asking questions, don't accept these talking points. Make sure they're explaining to you why they supported some of the things they did here. Okay, do we have any questions back there? Yes.
Governor, when you look at the cost of this special session, Republicans argue that they couldn't have gotten done what you wanted in that amount of time. You saw how things have unfolded when they could be their own. Do you feel it was a waste of taxpayer dollars, and do you think the legislature is to blame for that?
If I had not called the special session, this issue would not have been addressed at all. Let's just be clear about that. They didn't want to do it. They said it was a stunt. They said it could wait. And when they say it could wait, they weren't going to do it in the regular session in the spring. So the only reason we're here leading the country and having this debate is because I called them in and said, we got a job to do, let's do it. Now, I know a lot of them didn't like it, but you know what? I'm just trying to get the job done. I want to do the right thing. And the cost of it, you know, the governments will waste, especially the federal government under Biden, they were wasting hundreds of billions of dollars on crap. And I don't hear these journalists complain about that cost. They just look the other way. But man, if you want to do something conservative, they're so concerned there may be a cost, you know, to showing up and doing your job. What's the cost of inaction? What's the cost of allowing more illegal immigration into the state? What's the cost of not doing all we can to help achieve what President Trump promised, which is the largest deportation program in American history? All right, thanks, guys. God bless everybody. Appreciate it.